And so, it is now time. We are capping off this episode with the grand finale. And for this grand finale, we're going to be looking into one of the biggest, not just animation news, but one of the biggest movie news of last week. Now, this is technically considered to be a little teaser. Not even a teaser. This is considered to be a cast announcement per se. But the reactions to this, oh my goodness, was it explosive. It already became one of the most talked about movies so far. And this thing isn't even coming out not next year, but like in almost 2 years. Technically, the release date is around the holidays of 2026. But with that said, though, we did get our first look at how this movie is going to be. So with that said, let us go ahead and check out the cast announcement for Shrek 5.
Hey, Magic Mirror, who's the fairest of them all?
Why, Shrek, of course. And Zendaya? Oh, damn. Only in theaters. Christmas.
Yes, as you can see here, that was the little clip of Shrek 5 that is going to be coming out in Christmas 2026, specifically on December 23rd. By the way, I do apologize for cutting that little trailer short. I know I didn't, the narrator did not finish what he has just said. But yes, basically with this little teaser, the whole point of it is to go and introduce Zendaya is now going to be among the cast, in which Shrek is going to be playing, or as Zendaya is now going to be playing as Shrek and Fiona's teenage daughter, Felicia, where she is going to now play, or I guess it looks like she's going to be playing a significant role onto this movie right now. How big of a role? Well, it's going to be a while until we'll actually find out, though. But on top of that, of course, we did get our first new look onto Shrek, Donkey, Fiona, Felicia, as well as the Magic Mirror and Pinocchio. So from there, that seems to be the big... So that's all it's just presenting. And I know it is absolutely wild, the fact that they decided to go and release this little teaser right now. Especially when, again, this isn't coming out for like just under 2 years. Why is it that we're getting this immediately? Why now? Like, it's like, I think it's going to be like, what, 21 months technically that Shrek 5 is going to be coming out. So why now? Well, I'm not 100% sure, but I heard that allegedly it's mainly because of a leak. That this was supposed to be coming out in, I think this was supposed to be coming out at the end of this year. Like in around Christmas 2025, where DreamWorks would go and step in and say, hey, here's your first look at Shrek 5, which is coming out next year. But then I guess somebody has leaked out the information over the fact that Zendaya is now going to be among the cast. And that was supposed to be like a big part of like the surprise of what they have in store. Like one of the new major things about Shrek 5. And I guess DreamWorks and Universal pretty much figure to themselves, well, I guess the cat is out of the bag and we already got this teaser finished, so we might as well go and actually release it. But that's not necessarily the big thing that people have talked about. That's not necessarily why people really got talking about Shrek 5. It's actually in regards to the designs. It's the way that Shrek, Fiona, Donkey, Pinocchio, and maybe even including Felicia onto this, but it's basically the fact that they did get a brand new design. And the reaction to this, oh my goodness, it was all over the place. Like, there are people out there, they got their feelings about this, but the feelings were extremely strong. Like, they were absolutely wild. It's either there are people who do like the new look and they consider it to be a great update, like a great update to what we've had with the previous films. There are some people who could barely see a difference. Like, they don't see anything different to how Shrek was like back in 2001 and what we have gotten over here. There are some people who did notice the difference and they were a bit taken aback by the fact that there was a change in design, but they just want to take the time to go and process what they have seen and they want to go and get used to it. And then there are those who hate it with an absolute passion. That they see, this and they consider it to be one of the worst things to ever happen in animation. They already consider Shrek 5 to be an absolute disaster over what they have witnessed. In fact, they feel that so strongly. If you do take a look into the like and dislike ratio on the YouTube video put out by Universal Pictures, you'll see that as I am recording this, it has 182,000 likes, but then it has almost 500,000 dislikes, specifically 486,000 dislikes. So, yeah, the hate is certainly strong with this one, but in general, it's been pretty mixed. And I'm just going to say, on my part, I consider myself in the third category. Of course, I was surprised to see that there was already that first look that came out so early, but I was also surprised to see that, yeah, I did notice that there was a design change on Shrek and Donkey and all the other characters. Like, that was something that I did not expect. Like, oh, okay, so there is a change. All right. Wow. Oh, okay. But the thing is, though, is that I do not want to go and immediately rule out that it's bad just yet. Again, we're still like just under 2 years until the movie is officially released. This is our first ever time that we see what Shrek 5 is going to look like. And I'm just going to say, in my opinion, I don't think these designs are bad at all. I don't think it's terrible. And there is elements of familiarity from what we have gotten in the previous Shrek films that can still be found here. So honestly, I feel like for me, the worst thing about it is that I do need time to let that new design sink in and to adapt to the change, to see what will they do with these new designs. And especially, I do need the time, considering that I am one of those people that did grow up with the Shrek movies. I remember as a kid when Shrek was at its prime, especially with the first two Shrek movies, completely, they were dominating a good chunk, or at least most of the 2000 decade. And that there was a time when Shrek was the face of animation and was considered as much of an animation icon as much as Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse. But then, of course, there was Shrek the Third that came in and pretty much ruined its popularity, and people pretty much gave up on Shrek at that time. But then, well, over time, I guess you could say, well, the rest is history, and the image of Shrek kind of did change. And when it comes to this, though, so yeah, I've pretty much gotten myself used to the original look of Shrek that we are all familiar with, with the previous movies and stuff like that, especially with the fact that when you do look into the new DreamWorks logo, especially when you see the Moonchild, just seeing the variety of DreamWorks characters. And then at the end, it always happens when he waves at Shrek, Fiona, and Donkey. And I do believe now they do include Gingy, with Dogman. So from there, but with those designs, it remained the same. Nothing really changed with Shrek's design. It all stayed the same. But then suddenly, this came in and decided to give Shrek a brand new look. However, one thing that I will say is that I get it. I completely understand why DreamWorks would go and do this, why they would go and give Shrek a massive update. And that is because when you do look back at the animation of Shrek, I'm not saying that it's bad, but it really is of its time, per se. Like, keep in mind that the first Shrek was released back in 2001, and that that the original movie was in development, like, even during the late 1990s and stuff like that. And at that time, it was back when computer animation was still considered the hot new toy for movies. It was still the hot new medium that people want to really go and indulge and really experience. You know, like, it's still fascinating. You know, it was still highly fascinating to see computer animation be used this way for a movie, to fully develop an animated feature with CG. It was still a very novel idea, and people were still on that massive high from the innovation of Toy Story back in 1995. So from there, considering that it was new and considering now that they could go and present things in 3D, one of the major things that computer animation really wanted to do is to go and be realistic. That now they could really tap onto the realism with their technology and with their artistry to go and present their craft. And that's a major thing that Shrek really wanted to lean onto, is to try to go and capture realism with CG. But then over time, when you do look at the Shrek movies right now, they're honestly, well, by today's standards, it's not great. Their style actually looks a bit closer to something like the Image Movers films, you know, stuff like the Polar Express and stuff like that, where they try so hard to capture realism down to the point where the characters just look uncanny. Like, yes, Fiona is definitely beautiful, rather she be as an ogre or as a human, but still, though, it's just kind of weird to see, like, how she's trying to look as realistically as a person, as an actual person as possible. It's just, there's a lot of it that does feel weird. And I mean, I've mentioned this in my review of Shrek 2 before. Like, yeah, as much as I love that movie and I consider it to be one of DreamWorks' greatest masterpieces, the animation by today's standards, it's like, yeah, it just looks a bit off with the way that everything is trying to look weird. You know, everything is trying to look real, especially in a fantasy setting like Shrek. So from there, I do get it. And over the years, after Shrek Forever After, it feels like DreamWorks is trying to distance themselves from that realism. And that is especially in regards to Shrek. I do believe that within DreamWorks Animation, there was that desire to take Shrek away from that realism. And I actually talked to, I've talked with a friend about this, and there was something that he pointed to me that is actually very interesting, but this is not the first time that we have seen Shrek trying to distance himself from realism. And the biggest proof that I do have of this is actually a little promo for Kung Fu Panda 3 back in 2016.
Oh, what are you doing? You're not yourself. What am I doing? I'm gonna lay some skadoosh on this bag. You understand what skadoosh is? When I'm a monkey, you get down from that.
Pipe down. I don't take orders from wee rodents.
DreamWorks.
Now, okay, so other than the freaking interruption from Zoopocalypse, as you can see, the designs do remain the same. Like Donkey and Shrek do look the same as how they were in in the previous films and stuff like that. But you may have noticed that their animation, like, look at Donkey again. He's a lot more expressive. He's a lot more dynamic with the way that he would go and move. Like, they really do want to lean in, like, especially his eyes, like they're not like humanish eyes. Like, they're a lot more big. They're a lot more expressive. And keep in mind, this was back in 2016 that they animated this and decided to give Shrek that big cartoony update per se. So you could tell that there was that desire that they wanted to go and do so. But if that wasn't enough proof, well, recently we have actually seen a very prominent example, and that is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, since that one is actually a spin-off to Shrek. Yes, it is a sequel to the 2011 Puss in Boots, but The Last Wish did maintain a connection with the Shrek movies. Like, there was that one time when you see Puss, like his life was flashing before his eyes, and there was a quick moment where you see Puss with Shrek and Donkey, and then there was the post-credit where Puss was sailing away and he was going towards far, far away, where he kind of teased that he was about to reunite with Shrek and the gang. So from there, of course, you may have noticed with that animation, it went in a completely different direction than what Shrek and even the first Puss in Boots pretty much maintain and has established. Puss in Boots decided to go in its own direction, where they decided to go in a style that's a lot more painterly. And even like the designs are a lot more stylized as well. And even like everything about it is very much a lot more reminiscent to something like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse than it does with the first Shrek. And that right there is a strong indicator that DreamWorks wanted to do something different with the look of the franchise. And I'm not going to lie, I was kind of expecting that Shrek 5 would have the same style as Puss in Boots. You know, like to go and make that connection to that movie. But then I guess they decided to go and switch things up. And, they decided to go and give Shrek its own style instead of Puss in Boots. That I did hear a DreamWorks animator state that the reason why is because, with Puss in Boots, that movie is a lot more action-oriented, so they want to give an animation style that fits the action, something that's more reminiscent to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, while Shrek is more of a comedy movie, and they want to give it a little bit more of a cartoony style to go and emphasize the comedy of Shrek. So that was their explanation, and okay, I do get that, as beautiful as The Last Wish's style is, I get it if it doesn't seem to fit the comedic tone of Shrek, especially when Shrek is not, Shrek's top priorities is not necessarily action per se. So, okay, I do understand that. But with that said, though, those are all just my personal thoughts on the whole thing. So, so overall, it's just to say that I do understand why they want to go and do the change for Shrek. It's something that they've always wanted to do, and to give a new coat of paint to Shrek so that he can look more animated, to emphasize that Shrek is an animated movie. Not go overtly cartoony like what Sony Animation used to do, but at least something that does emphasize the cartoon of Shrek. But then there are the negative reactions. And oh my goodness, when people hate it, as you probably have seen, with the indicator at the, with the like and dislike ratio, when people hate it, they hate this with a burning passion. There are people out there who would say that Shrek looks AI generated, the new look on him is disgusting, and especially there have been many people who compare Shrek's new look to this right here, to the Sonic the Hedgehog design that he was about to look like in the movie before he ultimately got that redesign. And from there, this is actually why that there have been a lot of people on the internet in which they were trying to go and campaign to go and bully and harass DreamWorks and Universal to force them to make a design change. They're hoping that if it worked for Sonic the Hedgehog, then maybe they could do the same for Shrek in order for them to go and get what they want. Because the people who hate it, they are demanding that they want Shrek to look exactly like how he was back in the 2001 movie. And may I just go and say this right now. If you're one of those people who think that it's a good idea to do that Sonic the Hedgehog tactic of trying to go and bully and harass at the most that you can in order to go and get what you want, my only recommendation to you and my only piece of advice is to please do not use the internet before you go and take your medication, because honestly, that is just absolutely psychotic. Because so far, the only explanation and the only reason why I see so many people are just so upset is mainly because of their nostalgia. That people are just so attached to their nostalgia of the Shrek movies and how, though, at least the first two films were back then, and they were so attached to that look, to the point that now that they see something that is different, something that actually deviates from what they remember, they feel like this right here is a massive insult to their nostalgia, to what they remember from Shrek. The fact that they look at this and that they don't feel like they're wearing rose-tinted glasses and see like, yes, this is the same Shrek that I remember. I remember Shrek when he was, when he was in his first and second movie and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm glad to see that Shrek back. No, they're getting a different Shrek. The fact that they're getting a Shrek that is not like how he looks like. And honestly, this really does say a lot when it comes to fandoms and their attachment to nostalgia, because the big thing here and the big reason why fans are just so upset about this, it's not how Shrek changed. It's not the fact that he looks so cartoony to the point that it looks like Sony Animation animate them to have Shrek be included for Hotel Transylvania or something like that. No, it's not that at all. Although, ironically, I do believe that it is Sony Pictures Imageworks who's going to be animating this Shrek. So, I mean, technically, what I just said, it was, it's a little bit of a fact that technically it is Sony animating Shrek here. No, but what I am trying to say is that it's not how Shrek changed here. It's the fact that there was a change. It's the fact that they noticed that there is actually something different from what they remember. And that is the thing that causes them to go into their attitude of like, my childhood is ruined and all that kind of stuff. And this is not exclusively to the whole Shrek situation. This is in regards to all fandoms. This is a problem with all fans that when they are so attached and so dependent on their nostalgia, that when they see something that is just slightly altered from what they remembered, that's when suddenly they would get triggered and they feel like they take that very personally. They take that as an insult to their childhood. They take that as an insult as something that they personally grew up with and a part of their personal identity. So that's why, like, when it comes to the attachment of nostalgia, it is a very dangerous thing, considering that the more that people are attached to it, the more that they associate themselves with their nostalgia, the more dangerous and toxic that it would be, because whatever they would associate a thing that is part of their nostalgia, they also take it as a part of themselves. And that's when they would go and become very irrational and really let out their emotions to the point that it would really get the best of them. And that's how you see these reactions right over here. That's where you would see people looking at this and think that this is a great insult to themselves because it's an insult to their nostalgia, because now Shrek looks completely different. And it causes them to go and get their emotions to get the best of them, thinking that it would be a good idea to go throw in insults and promote harassment in order to go and get what they want, because they don't like change. They don't want things to change, even if it is as minor as a slight touch up onto the designs of these characters. So overall, I personally feel like this whole controversy says so much more about people's dependence and their attachment to nostalgia, more so than it does the Shrek 5 project itself. Now, I know that I am not the first to go and discuss about this. In fact, I know that Double Toasted actually made a great discussion in regards to the whole controversy. But I do understand that when things look different, like there could be a debate if it is good or bad. And I mean, I've heard a lot of criticisms outside of the designs that people are not really, that they didn't really like. I've seen people actually say that they didn't like the humor that was presented, and okay, that is fair. And I've seen some people criticize the fact that they're hiring Zendaya to be a part of the cast and that now she is being a little too overexposed to the point that she's kind of like becoming the female Dwayne Johnson, where like almost every movie now has to have Zendaya in it. And I do understand that criticism as well. But when it comes to the character design, yes, I do feel like the reactions have been a little too overblown, and it really does highlight how a lot of the recent criticisms, not just towards Shrek, but how they are used, it really is a bad idea, and it really makes the individual look toxic. Rather it be the commentary about AI, where people would use that, they would use the term, oh, it looks AI generated, as a way to go and express something that they don't like. Like, I feel like nowadays, like, calling something AI generated, it feels like the new CalArt style. It's a way to go and pretentiously, discredit the work that it's been done, and you would just go and say, oh, it's AI generated. It sucks because it's AI. I don't like it because it's AI generated. Like, people would go and use it like that. It was already evident that people would go and say that about the recent Disney projects like Wish and Moana 2, but now it is very clear that they are doing so with Shrek. And even the whole idea about, what happened with Sonic the Hedgehog, like the way that people protested against the Sonic design to the point of making Paramount do a significant update to the look of Sonic, I think people really got the wrong message of what happened to that movie. Like, people are looking at what happened there and they think like, yes, bullying and harassment works, so let's keep doing that until we get what we want. And that really does lead down to a very dark and dangerous path. So overall, it really does highlight the dangers of fandoms and like this serious toxicity that we have seen brewing. Again, I was also taken aback by all the changes, but you know what? Considering that it's still a very long time until we know like this movie is going to until this movie is going to be coming out in the first place. Ultimately, the best thing we can do is just wait and see. I mean, we only got a few seconds of this, and that is not enough to go and fully determine if this change is actually worthwhile or not. So personally, I feel like we need to be patient and wait until we do get more clips and more, more trailers and stuff like that to actually form an opinion if the design is actually good or not, or even if the movie itself is actually good. All right, so I'm going to go onto a quick break to go and refresh the timer here. But when we do come back, I'm going to go and ask your opinion in regards to what do you all think about the Shrek 5 teaser. Did you guys like it? Did you guys not? We will wait and see when we do come back. All right, welcome back. So now with that said, I want to go and ask you all, what do you all think about it? And at the same time, I'm going to go and release a poll here where I'm going to be asking, what do you think of the redesign? If you either think it looks great, if you did not notice the redesign, if you need time to go and adjust to the redesign, or if you hate it. So I'm going to go and release this, and I want to see what you all have to say. All right, so let's see what the chat wall says here. So, all right. In my opinion, the redesign looks all right. It's going to take a bit of time getting used to it, and I would have preferred The Last Wish's art style, but at the same time, it does look livelier and brighter, kind of like what Croods 2 did. But at the same time, the backlash is a little ogre blown. Hold on a sec. Which one? I'll go with this one there. There we go. Okay. Sorry, had to get one more in. It's a little jarring. They still look like how they were before, so I can't complain. It's too early to tell how good or bad this is, or how good or bad this will be written-wise, but for now, it looks fine. Okay, that is fair. Honestly, I actually really do agree that, honestly, I do personally prefer the Last Wishes art style than what we got here, but I mean, that doesn't mean that what we got so far in that teaser looks bad. Let's see, what other comments do we have? I'll admit that when I first saw this, I was a little surprised by the new design. And while I didn't like it at first, but after closer look, it doesn't look that bad. Considering it's been 15 years since the last movie, it made sense. Also, the hate has been overblown. In a way, the Sonic redesign really had consequences when it comes to fandom entitlement. All right, that's fair. That's good. The designs felt a bit off-putting, but I think it's because early DreamWorks designed characters with more human traits and have since moved towards expressive and exaggerated designs. Shrek and Donkey and the rest now feel like they came from Croods 2 rather than Ants. And while I think it's for the best long-term, it's still something I feel like I need some time to get used to, though I don't think it's bad at all. It's already getting used to it. Exactly. You just wrote down what exactly my thoughts on it. It's just like, it's like, oh God, okay, this is not what I remember. I need time to get used to this. Okay. Let's see now. What other comments would there be? Oh God, oh man, really? Apparently Shafrilla's is like, he's encouraging the freaking toxicity of this. Now, I see like apparently Shafrilla's arguments are the same as the toxic fans. Oh God. Oh man, sometimes like the dude needs to really be careful with the way he uses his platform. Like honestly, it's stuff like that honestly, if he's not careful, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up having like another incident similar to like what Mr. Enter did in the past. It's just like, yeah, that, trust me, Shaft, dude, it's not a good look for you, man. You cannot be encouraging this kind of behavior. Like, it's one thing to have your opinion, but still, I don't know, man. Anyways, it looks like the poll is pretty much done, and, well, okay, it's a bit mixed, but half of you actually said that it looks great. And, you do, and there are like a good amount that, 41% have said that you need time to go and adjust it. So a little bit similar to my opinion. And then there's, one person who voted that you didn't notice, and another person, said that you hate it. And speaking of hating, here's another interesting take here. First impression, this looks terrible. DreamWorks is outsourcing their animation, and boy does it show. The character designs look absolutely awful. I know DreamWorks and Illumination are now both owned by Universal, but that doesn't mean DreamWorks has to make their movies look like a worse version of Illumination's movies. Shrek is acknowledging its memes, so you know it's desperate. Shrek calling out how bad it is did not fix anything. Also, horny mom Fiona, do not want. Okay, to be honest, horny mom Fiona might be something that I do want, but no, but it is something, you do bring up something very interesting, considering that I've seen some people comment that it looks a bit more like, you look at this, and it does look a bit more like an Illumination movie, but that's not necessarily a mistake, considering that the founder of Illumination, Chris Meledandri, is a producer in this. So maybe he might have had a legitimate influence on the way Shrek actually looks. Anyways, let's see what we got here. As the narrator said, oh damn. But seriously, I'm a bit mixed on the designs. While I think it's good to update it, and it's been almost 15 years since the last film, like how they did with The Last Wish, there's something about it that still looks weird. It's not bad, but it feels very Illumination. Well, I pretty much explained why. Of course, I'll hold my full judgment till we see a full trailer, but man, I hate how people are saying this should get the same treatment when they completely miss the point on why they did it for that. Exactly, man. It just feels like honestly, the negativity of Shrek is like, it feels like it's overblown, and it's like really going down to a direction that really should not be encouraged. really, like the whole thing, like it's one of those things that kind of makes it feel like the Sonic redesign was like a freaking mistake, especially when people are like really getting the wrong lessons out of it. Let's see now. I actually don't mind the redesigns of Shrek and Donkey. I just think they look older, but that's the idea, you guys. It takes place almost 16 years after Shrek 4, folks. I still can't wait to see it, but I just hate the term Disneyfied that the internet is saying about it. It's a stupid argument that shouldn't be a thing in the first place. Really proves that my point that animation Twitter doesn't truly care about animators at all. Overall, don't mind it. Glad to see my homie Shrek again. Animation? Really? No, not animation, but Disneyfied? This is considered Disneyfied? I don't know what you're talking about, but when I saw the redesign, when I first saw that, one of the first things in my mind is not the fact that, oh, it looks like a Disney movie. So I don't know where I don't know if it's just people who are just so desperate to find a reason to throw their Disney hate because Disney haters have gone to the point that they just make it their entire personality to just hate the company for like every stupid reason. Like, honestly, it's at the point where like they ignore the justifiable reasons to hate Disney and now just go for like the petty, stupid reasons that a lot of them are just bad takes in the first place, where no, this is not freaking Disneyfied, folks. This is ridiculous. Oh, God. Let's see. Daz Reviews made a rather over-the-top reaction, and honestly, I feel like the reactions is kind of stupid. I'm okay with the designs. I get used to it, but I don't think Disney has been prettified or Disneyfied. I can't explain why I feel weird about Shrek and Donkey's design. I mean, Donkey, it's more like his hair is weird. However, I get it. Time has passed. Felicia is a teenager as well, so I think it's using real time like the Cars movies. Exactly. So honestly, if you're going to be pro tip, by the way, if you're going to be using terms like Disneyfied, you might as well just say it's the Cal art style. You might as well just go and say that Shrek is now using the Cal art style. Please don't make Disneyfied a thing, because that's freaking cringe. All right, I think I'm going to read one more comment before we go and cap this off here. Let's see now. All right, you know what? Let's go with yeah. All right. Yeah, okay, let's go with this. So, outside of the Puss in Boots films, I haven't seen the main Shrek films, and I'm not really interested in Shrek 5. But when I heard the reactions over the teaser, I was really surprised. As for my thoughts, I don't think the designs are terrible, but they could have been better. That and maybe adding Zendaya could work out, since I feel like she could re-embrace her humor from her Disney Channel days with her role as Shrek's daughter, like how Jim Carrey did his humor in the Shrek movies. Well, I guess ultimately, we're just going to have to wait and see if this will all actually work out when Shrek 5 is going to be coming out on Christmas, or specifically December 23rd, 2026.